Welcome to another episode of Culinary School Stories, the weekly podcast that is dedicated to sharing the stories of people around the globe whose lives have been influenced, impacted, touched, and or enriched, for good or for bad, from their culinary school experience. Hi, my name is Colin Roach, and I'm your host. Thanks for joining us today. You are an important part of this show, where we ask the question, what's your culinary school story? So now, without any further delay, let's meet today's guest. Hello, everyone. We have a very informative show today. I want to first thank you all for joining us for this episode of the Culinary School Stories podcast, a proud member of the Food Media Network. And if you have not yet subscribed, please do so. It is free, and we would love to have you as part of our community. You can subscribe through your favorite podcast app, such as Apple Podcasts, which comes preloaded on all iPhones, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or etc., or through our website at www.culinaryschoolstories.com, which is also where we store all of the podcast's past episodes and guest bios contact info. So be sure to check out the website and sign up for our monthly newsletter. Well, I'm excited to welcome today's guest to the show. He is currently a senior culinary arts manager for Marriott International, belongs to numerous professional organizations, and has won quite a few culinary competitions, including Guy's Grocery Games on the Food Network's TV show. And so, without further delay, it is my pleasure to introduce today's guest, Chef Ashten Garrett. Ashten, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chef. Glad to be here. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, so I know we got a lot to talk about, so let's start right at the beginning, which in your case was super young. I was reading your bio, and you say that cooking has been part of your life since you were 3 years old. Tell us about that.
All right, yes, Chef. So I kind of just, got my start early on, scared the heck out of my parents, like seeing a kid start, that early with infatuation for, cooking. So I used to do it all. I used to steal pots and pans and play with them, and just do different things. And my mom had to, strap some bells to my shoes throughout the house to know where I was, because I always, would mischievously get into different things like that. So I kind of got my start, easy bake oven straight out the, the gate. My parents got me that for Christmas, and baked all the desserts in one day. It was just an extraordinary experience, watching the batter transform, throughout the oven, and, creating smelling the aromas. That was like on the early onset, my favorite aspect of culinary, like getting involved in cooking. And then from there, it was a culinary play set. I'm making fake bacon, flipping fake pancakes. I had a cash register. I would, play with it for hours on end while, my brother and my friends are outside playing, in the yard like regular kids do. I'm in the house flipping imaginary pancakes and sizzling with imaginary bacon. So, it kind of started. I honestly can't tell you where it all came from. It just came together. It was just a passion and a purpose. Being in the kitchen makes, it's a safety net. It's where I feel most comfortable, even on a professional level. And, it's always been something that I've just dove into, and for the last 20 years now, it's been a place where it's always been like, okay, that's Ashten Garrett's zone. So that's kind of like the early on story, and cooking with my mother in the kitchen, cooking with my father in the kitchen, my grandparents in the kitchen, family reunions, family events, all of that, on the early onset has just been tremendous.
Awesome. Now tell me how that materialized throughout your high school years. Did you participate in high school? Did you belong to, clubs? Did you cook?
Right.
And did you have a job?
Yeah, absolutely. So while I was in middle school, I kind of went through, my parents enrolled me in summer culinary classes. So I went to like a vocational culinary school where they just specialized just in culinary. So this was like middle school heading into high school. So we would just work on small things like how to make spaghetti primavera, or I remember working peanut brittle and making peanut brittle for the very first time. Wow. And how interesting and awesome that was. And kind of, how to learn how to measure recipes, how to develop recipes. So that was, more so like 1 or 2 days out the week. And then when I got to high school, we had a vocational program, a chef prep program for prospective students who want to be in the culinary industry and make it a career. And that kind of molded you for that next transition, whether it's a vocational culinary school, Johnson & Wales, CIA, Scaffier, things like that. Or if you just want to go out to the industry, at least you have that knowledge. And from there, you earned your Serve Safe certification. And if you wanted to, we also had ACF certifications as well. So that was kind of like, like that high school transition. My first ever high school job I was a sophomore. I think I want to say 15 to 16 years old. I was actually before that, I worked at a catering facility. My mother, who was a phenomenal wedding decorator, she knew the owner of a catering facility and kind of got me that job, and I was a dishwasher. Very, very, taught me humility straight out the gate. Taught me respect, not only respecting others, but respecting the kitchen, how to utilize and cross-utilize, things like that. And then, so I guess that was kind of my, early onset doing weddings and banquets and things like that. And then we transitioned. I kind of just transitioned into a full-scale fine dining restaurant that we had in Akron, Ohio. That's where I'm from. And I worked there. I was a deep cleaner. And as you might know, chef, that's kind of like the lowest on the brigade. So yeah, I was, scrubbing floors, scrubbing, wherever the guests might see, or even, kind of keeping the equipment appreciated, so it doesn't depreciate throughout, as easily, and kind of scrubbing things. And then graduated, actually got promoted to a dishwasher, so I tell people that all the time. You're like, yeah, man, you started below a dishwasher. Yes, exactly. So I was a deep cleaner, and, got promoted to dishwasher, and, the prep cook and, banquet cook. And then, originally I was on the line, and I was the youngest ever out of the entire company to be on the line. And then
awesome.
A year later, I was promoted to lead line cook. So, definitely, keeping my head down, yes, chef mentality, learning, the ropes. It's like I said, it taught me humility. It taught me a lot of respect. And really appreciation for the chef role.
There's nothing wrong with being a dishwasher. It's where I started, and a lot of other people started in this industry.
Exactly.
And it does help build that foundation. You have that appreciation for all positions in a kitchen.
Exactly.
Okay, so now you're getting out of high school. This is going to be your career. You're going to go to school. You're in Ohio. How did you pick Johnson & Wales,
right,
specifically the Miami campus? Tell us that. How many schools did you look at? Which ones how did you finally make that decision?
Yes, actually, chef, that's a great question, and an interesting question that, I always tell people. Actually, I have family down in Florida. And my parents, or my entire family, we traveled down there pretty often, whether it's going on cruises or just, kind of vacationing. And so that was, a lead, I should say, influence. But I also looked at Johnson & Wales Providence. I also looked at CIA. CIA was actually where I wanted to go originally. And I didn't take a campus visit. I kind of took a virtual tour, on their website and things like that. I saw what they had to offer, and I loved it. And then, this was all in 8th grade, chef. I kind of wanted to make up my mind, like pretty soon. This is what I wanted to do. I was just looking at culinary schools, and I saw Johnson & Wales, North Miami, actually come from a newsletter in the guidance office of my high school, or my middle school, I should say. And I kind of just looked at it and, researched it online. And I said, wow, this is where I wanted to go. Mainly for one or two things why I wanted to attend Johnson & Wales North Miami. One, the diversity. The diversity was incredible. The rate at which it was growing, as well as, I just love being around diverse people. I think it brings a wealth of ideas, a wealth of perspective, a wealth of innovation. And also the second, I actually want to be on a cruise ship, chef. And like I said, my parents have been on 30 plus cruises. My brother and I have been blessed to be on probably, I want to say like 5 to 10. And, I kind of just, I was like, wow, the opportunity to travel, to cook different cuisines, to be like I said, to be on a boat that's constantly revolving. So I thought that was a cool idea, and no better place to be in Miami, with the cruise port, right down there. So that was kind of a driving factor as well. But ultimately, when I got down there, I had chefs even like yourself, Chef LaCostra, Chef Kopsik, kind of give me some more perspective and tell me to branch my wings out a little bit more. So that's kind of what I veered away from the cruise ship industry a little bit, but we'll talk about that later on. But those were some driving factors. And, a lot of people say like, was the sun, like
the weather, right?
Exactly. The weather driving factor. That's always a great factor, especially coming from Ohio where you see snow often. So, but yeah, that was definitely a great factor.
Now, you mentioned diversity being a factor in your decision. Did you find diversity at the other schools that you looked at, like CIA, Providence? Did you find it there or not?
No, yes, I did. Yeah, more so like Providence, CIA, I think does extremely well in molding their students for, the next level, whatever that's going to be. To be honest with you, the reason why, CIA was at the top of my list was the Alumni Association was so strong, and the ACF, Alumni Association, that kind of parlayed into the CIA was a definite and prominent factor. Me personally, I don't think I went into depth that much to see about their diversity scale. Johnson & Wales kind of promoted that on the early onset, that they were, I want to say like one of the number one, most diverse universities. So that was like, it caught my eye, fairly soon. Again, I'm only in 8th grade, so that's I'm just seeing this for the first time.
And Miami is much more international than say Hyde Park or Providence.
Exactly.
And stuff. So there's a lot more cultures there.
A melting pot of different diversity. Exactly. So that was another driving factor too, Chef.
Awesome. So did you go visit the campus first, or did you just go there blind, ready to go?
I did. I went on a campus visit. We had like a culinary weekend kind of thing, and that was tremendous, just to see. And my parents urged me to do that, and I'm glad that they did, because as you and I both know, like relative, culinary school in general is not the least expensive thing in the world. Yeah. So it was, very important that you see, first where you're going to be staying, the faculty, seeing the kitchens, and what that did for me, it created perspective and also created my imagination for culinary. And it allowed me to see like, wow, like seeing how the chefs set up their kitchens and how the students operate and, where I'll be eating and where the gym is. It kind of, it made me imagine what I would be doing that ensuing year, So I went my junior year of high school, and that kind of transitioned into, that Wildcat weekend kind of thing, I want to say. And my mother went down with me. It was just a great time. I met a lot of different students, international students, and, kind of just interesting to hear their stories and perspectives and why they got into culinary in the first place. And that's, I've kind of fell in love with the campus then. I fell in love with this university then.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you definitely want to go check out these schools first. I mean, you're paying a lot of money, you mentioned. Right. I mean, you're buying like a fancy European sports car there price. You wouldn't go buy it without even test driving it. So go see it and get involved and see what it's all about and see if it fits, because there's different campuses for everybody, right. Different schools for everybody.
Exactly.
So speaking about expensive, did you apply for scholarships? How did that all work? How did you help pay for it? I mean, you knew in advance you were in 8th grade and high school, and you knew you had to save up. Did you apply for grants? Did the school give you money? How does one kind of alleviate some of that finance?
Tell you what, Chef, that's a great question. And what's in particular, and I'm extremely blessed to be, to say this, my parents helped me out tremendously. And I wouldn't be the chef I am today without them. So Mom, Dad, if you're watching this, thank you so much for all that you've done. I really appreciate it. But Chef, to be honest with you, we started my sophomore year in high school, just applying for different scholarships. And to any young student now thinking about going into culinary school, start early. Please start early. Don't be the last to wait, because when it comes around your junior year, senior year, after you're done taking the ACT, SAT, you're kind of getting college fever, but you're not the only one getting college fever. There's so many other students getting college fever. So that means there's a splurge and a rush to kind of apply for these scholarships. So that makes it even more compounded and more competitive in terms of getting a scholarship. So Chef, I think in all, I applied for a little over 130 scholarships throughout my high school tenure, I should say. I was blessed enough to receive, I want to say, probably about 50 to 55 of that. I'm not sure how much money that equates to, but it definitely helped me out, with culinary school. And actually, the Johnson & Wales did assist me in that. The parent or sister organization, FCCLA, definitely helped me out and gave me a scholarship with that as well. So keep your grades up. Study, work hard, but please start early, start often. If any high school student watching this, definitely you want to be ahead of the curve 100%.
Yeah, because it is expensive, but people should know that that's like the sticker price.
Right.
Most schools, and that's true, and not just culinary, all universities, that's not the price you pay. It's always discounted depending on everyone's situation and where you're coming from. So, look into it. Don't ever discount a school because you think it's too expensive. Go through that financial process and get those scholarships and grants. There's institutional aid, but there's also specific ones to our industry, like from the National Restaurant Association, the American Culinary Federation, and local chapters.
Right.
So really explore those little niche type pockets. Did you find any of those in the industry type scholarships?
I did, yes. So I guess in our National Restaurant Association, they're kind of like, they're, and that's another thing, too. When you start early, it gives you that, that ability to look and to be, and to search and to find different things. Chef, we were finding stuff that, may not have associated with culinary directly, but still in some way in a hospitality form. So just apply for it, stuff that I didn't even think would apply to me, apply to me. And like I said, I was blessed enough to receive a scholarship like that. So off the top of my head, I don't remember the exact names of the scholarships or the associations, but there's definitely ones, that kind of correlate to culinary, but may not have that name or tag that deal with culinary, So, but yeah, just search, so we did culinary scholarships, culinary school scholarships, hospitality, fine dining, different things like that. S. Pellegrino gives a scholarship. Mentor BKB gives a scholarship. ACF, of course, World Association of Chef Societies. There's just so much out there. ProStart, FCCLA, DECA, all these great organizations.
I think James Beard Foundation does a clearinghouse too.
Oh my gosh, yes, Chef. Oh, thank you. Yeah, James Beard. Plethora of scholarships. With that organization. So it's out there. You guys just have to, buckle down and just keep looking.
Because most people don't want to do the work. So if you do the work, you do the digging, just filling out those applications, those essays. Sometimes you can use the same, body of it and just
one size fits all.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, I know when I was going through school, same thing. I didn't have a lot of money. One of them I applied for was this, I forget the name of it, but it was a Presbyterian scholarship.
Okay.
So I'm not Presbyterian.
Right.
But
exactly.
it never said in there you had to be.
You had to be. Exactly.
So
right.
I applied for it. I got it 4 years in a row. And I'm like,
exactly.
Thank you, Presbyterian Scholarship.
Yep. And, I say that to say, I'm glad you said that, Chef, because that can deter you away from not applying, that you create a conscious thinking that, this doesn't apply to me because it's, this specific. But if it doesn't say, like the rules don't apply. And like you said, one size fits all. So, but yeah, that's awesome, Chef.
Great. Okay. So you got to culinary school. You got it kind of paid for there a little bit. Let's talk about your classes. What was your first lab class? Were you scared? You already had a lot of experience. Were you above those students already in class? Were the chefs mean, like some people think? Tell us about that experience. What's going through your head?
This is one of my favorite stories I always tell because it's such a nuance. My first ever class, Chef, was baking and pastry fundamentals. Mind you, I'm down there to cook. I want to be hands in, neck deep in just culinary, full savory. I want to do what the guys are doing on Food Network and what I see on Netflix and all this, and with the fire and they're flipping and stuff like that.
Let me just say, because some people may not know, when you go to culinary school and you're going for culinary arts, not baking and pastry, you still have baking and pastry. You still have front of the house classes. You have dining room. You have bartending. You have academics. So you may not get into that culinary lab right away.
Right. And that was the thing, so I had this mindset where first thing in, we'll be sauteing, we're cooking and doing all this, we're in the advanced level classes and things like that. So I get my schedule, as every culinary student does, based on their trimester. And it says baking and pastry fundamentals. And Chef, my morale went from 100 to like negative 100. I called my parents. I said, I quit. I'm out of here. My first class is baking and pastry. I can't believe they do this to me. I don't want to bake. I don't want to do this. But a little backstory, Chef. I wanted to be a baker when I was little, with the Easy Bake Oven and everything like that. I went to cake decorating classes. I baked brownies, which is my favorite dessert, cookies for, a local hair salon, my mother's hair salon. So I would sell, my baked goods. So I love everything baking. And as I kind of got older, my patience ran a little dry. And of course, to be a baking and pastry artist, you have to appreciate that for one, in which I do. I learned a new respect going down to Johnson & Wales about baking and pastry, of course, but also, the respect about patience and how intricate it really is and how detailed it is. So that was kind of a little bit backstory. But my first class, like I said, was baking and pastry. Chef Kevin Kopsick, a phenomenal instructor for anybody who may know him down at Johnson & Wales. And so I was there. I got there. I think class started at 7:00. Chef, I want to say I got there at 6:30. I was the first one in the class, and I'm thinking I'm in the wrong classroom because it's all right, 6:45, 6:50. I'm not seeing many students, and I see chef stuff was already in there. He was already set up, of course. I think he just stepped out to get a coffee or talk to some colleagues. So I was in the class just thinking, just looking around like, man, like this is baking and pastry, and of course the pastry labs are cold, so they're cold for a reason, to keep everything regulated at room temp or at its certain temperature. So I'm in there shivering. I'm like, man, this is really not helping my case for wanting to be at Johnson & Wales right now. But no, my first class was amazing. The students that were involved there, like I said, diverse. We had different students from Texas, California. Some were indigenous in terms of being from Miami, New York, just from all over the world, all over the country, I should say. And, kind of just back and forth, having, small talk throughout the class and bouncing ideas off each other. We were there for a reason. We were there for a purpose. And it was great to be there. Like I said, he was a phenomenal instructor, still to this day is. And I really appreciate his guidance, and helping out for that.
Mm-hmm. But it's so true. When you want to be a chef and you go to culinary school and you go into baking, you're like, I did the same thing. It was the worst grade I got when I was in culinary school. I was all A's, but I think I got a C or a C plus in classical bakes. And even the instructor come out to me, and she was a German lady. She's like, you could do so much better if you apply yourself. Exactly. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna hire a pastry. Right. I don't want to do this stuff.
And that's the funny thing, Chef, if I may real quick. Chef Kopsick actually said that. He said, although the majority of you actually want to be chefs, a chef doesn't mean that you're just strictly just a chef. You need to be well-rounded. You need to understand, the layers to being a chef. And that spoke volumes to me, even to this day, and he said, what happens when you have your pastry chef call off or your executive pastry chef can't make it? Sure. Are you just going to shut down the kitchen or shut down the restaurant? You potentially lose thousands of dollars. And as you and I both know, our industry revolves around, the money, whether it's waste or, keeping a certain, P&L, kind of standard. So, that, like I said, that spoke volumes to me, and that ignited a flame in me to want to learn and adjust myself to baking and pastry.
Yeah, and the skills you learn, and they're so valuable to be a chef. You got to be well-rounded. And even though you may not practice it or be a practitioner of that, you should understand it, because those areas will be underneath, usually your responsibility as well. So the very least, just to appreciate it and what the level of skill, people that really go into that have, and what they can bring to the table for you. So. Okay, so what was your favorite class then? You got out of baking, now you finally get into some cooking classes, some culinary classes. Did you have a favorite, and why?
I think Chef Garmin J was definitely a favorite. Garmin J and I have to say Garmin J and meat fabrication were definitely some of my favorites. Garmin J, just understanding the creativity behind it, as well as the resourcefulness. As Garmin J, you kind of just in the old school days, you kind of, those are the scraps, and you just use the scraps to, turn it into something. It, of course, forced meats.
Make some money.
Exactly, make some money. Forced meats and different things like that, pâtés. So learning how to do that and learning that skill, and understanding and respecting the true value of the word waste and how to alleviate waste. Turning different things and throughout, school, they teach you, the scraps goes into a stock, or, we're composting, or, we can utilize that for a different class, save. Don't throw anything out that doesn't need to be thrown out, of course, unless, it infringes on HACCP or anything like that. So that for sure, Garmin J, and the meat fabrication, with Chef Alan Lazar at the time, that was a tremendous, class, just learning the ins and outs. Your chef, up until that point, I only knew what was right in front of me. What I mean by that is, I go to a restaurant, I order, a salmon or a snapper. it just comes as is. I'm not sure how the guys in the back are filleting it or, doing, taking the scales off. I saw in a video once, but to actually have it in front of you and seeing how to fabricate a Dover sole and a flat fish versus a round fish, and cutting a chicken, learning how to fabricate a chicken. So all these things, in the early onset, teach you patience, a lot about patience, finesse, the technicality, that it really takes to create a great product. And I've learned a lot from that.
Yeah, it's so true. That class is valuable in a lot of different ways as well. Can you speak to or tell the listeners a little bit about, the level of rigor? I mean, it's a college, it's university, and some people think culinary school, and there is probably some that doesn't have a lot of assignments, homeworks, how hard it is for tests, but just to give them and maybe an impression of the labs, of the academic classes you had to go through. How did you find them to be, academic wise?
Sure. The first, I think, I would like to say, if there's any student that's getting involved in any higher level education, or base apprenticeship, I should say, two things that stand out more than anything is discipline and commitment. So learning those two things throughout my entire, tenure at Johnson Wales, truly helped me out. But to answer your question, Chef, the classes definitely, where some are experiential, for a reason, and others are more academic. But, you're not going to be in there, learning or just reading out of the book and, kind of just doing that. That's more so on you, as a student, to learn like, okay, this is your book work, research. While you're in class, you're doing applications, you're doing the technicals, you're hands-on. I think that's what I appreciate about Johnson & Wales is, on the back end, you're learning the academics, from the book, from the worksheets, from the quizzes online. But while you're in class for those 6 or 7 hours, you're in class. So to kind of give it a breakdown, for the viewers watching. So I had Johnson Wales did an AM and a PM segment, the 7 to 1:30, I think 2 to 8 or 1:30 to 7:30, I should say. So you had your choice of AM and PM. And from there, depending on, your level of comfortability and consistency, you could just choose, which segments you want to do. But it was well-rounded, and, like I said, baking and pastry, chef, as you mentioned, food and beverage and hospitality. And that was an interesting class too in its own right, learning about the different terroirs, learning how wine is made, the intricacies of just making a coffee. So, how to make tea service, crepe Suzette, different things like that, just a wealth of knowledge. And like I said, it helped being in a diverse atmosphere and creating, a different level of perspective. But on the academic side, I thought they were tremendous, and they were relevant to what was happening now. And that's something I appreciated about Johnson & Wales, is that we weren't learning something about 20 years or 30 years ago that might have happened that changed the industry dramatically. Although we did use that as a foundational level to build, it was nothing more so than just, okay, Ashton, this is how we use technology at Marriott International. And we would actually, have a conversation with somebody who worked at Marriott International in real time on how he or she implemented that into the business platform, and different things like that. So it was a tremendous experience, and learning so much really afforded me, the opportunity to garner my degree and be the young chef that I am today.
Now you've got 2 degrees from there, right? You got an associate's degree, and that was in culinary arts, and then you stayed on for a bachelor's degree. What did you get the bachelor's degree in? And looking back now, do you think it's worth it to get the degrees that you got?
All right. And that's a great question, Chef, because a lot of my colleagues, they were only in for their associates, kind of just, I just want to learn the cooking fundamentals and then go out into industry. The reason I wanted to learn, my bachelor's in food service and hospitality management, that's my bachelor's degree. I still to this day have aspirations of owning and operating my own restaurant. And to do that, I wanted to be well-rounded in the business sense. And learning about, statistics and financials and management, money management, time management, all these things that parlay into a well-rounded business, platform. And I think that any chef can agree with me that, as your chef, you're not just a chef, anybody can put great food on a plate, but you need to learn about profit and loss, how to, scheduling, waste logs, different things like that. All that affects the overall business sense, target audience, location, different things like that. Stuff that we learn in your class, Chef, cost control and management, things when we're doing the sim, the dreadful simulation at the end, that so many people, didn't like. But I appreciated it, even though, sometimes I would fail and stumble, but it taught me every time I would fail and stumble, I learned a lesson on how not to do this. Maybe I shouldn't open my restaurant over here now because of X, so and so, so and so. So I wanted to stay on, like I said, my bachelor's, just to learn, be a well-rounded chef, and it is profited me, it helped me out tremendously. Now, to say, unfortunately, in the current unprecedented times now, where the jobs may not be as fluctuating as they once were. It can be daunting for a young chef to think like, okay, do I really need this? And what I say to that is really just sit down, plan out your year, plan out the next 5-10 years where you would like to be. One great thing about our industry is that it changes every day. Sometimes for the bad, sometimes for the good. But even in the bad, you can learn from that and grow from that. Develop yourself and develop your character and your professionalism. But for me, like I said, Chef, it was about being well-rounded, being in a business perspective, learning the different things, that go into making a business and creating a business from the startup. We had an entrepreneurship class, and that was probably one of my my favorite academic classes, was just learning things about the back end, and learning the sweat equity, the time, the frustration that it goes into just building something from the ground up, but also how rewarding it is, to see it go from just a plan on a piece of paper to manifesting itself into something bigger and brighter than that. So it really just, depends on the chef. Like I said, I have colleagues that only went in for 2 years. I've had some that, went for the associate's degree and dropped out and, are doing extremely well, just doing their own things. I've had others, like I said, Chef, that have masters and their PhDs and, they're not where they want to be right now, but they're still, making strides towards there. So, it just depends on what you want to do.
What about the aspiring culinarian that's out there, maybe thinking about going to culinary school, and they're hearing from people, you don't need culinary school. I mean, just stay here. We'll teach you everything. Go to the school of hard knocks. Why spend all that money, have that debt? Why not just learn it through the ranks? Like, the old model from Europe, apprenticeship model. What do you think about that? Can you compare, contrast the two? And
certainly. And I was posed that question too. I asked one of my mentors, is this really worth it? Is culinary school really worth it? And I think the biggest thing that students look at, of course, when it comes to culinary school or any higher level, education or apprenticeship, is the cost. That's like the biggest thing. You can have aspirations. You can work at the Greenbrier. You can go to CIA, Johnson & Wells, all these, great coveted institutions and, that have created, an alumni of tremendous chefs, tremendous, hospitality industry leaders, and just, have your imagination full. And then, but you see that cost and that just takes everything away. It just, just kills your entire motivation. So what I say to that is, just find out what you like to do first. And for me, it was all about getting in the industry early. So for this, the prospective students that are looking to go into culinary school, you working in the industry is already a leg up. And, and I tell people this all the time. I tell culinary students all the time, get into the industry first and foremost. Before you think about any culinary school, make sure that this is what you want to do. And I don't care if it's working at Applebee's or Olive Garden or even like a fast food kind of, restaurant, McDonald's, Burger King, whatever the case may be, get into the industry, understand the rigors, understand the vocabulary that's being used, understand the language, understand, the time, the discipline that it takes, to become a cook and then eventually become a chef. Learn the ins and outs of the business as much as you can. And the only way to do that is to dive into it. Like I said, my first job was a deep cleaner, and it taught me to be extremely humilitous and understand, a certain level of discipline that it takes to become an ultimate chef. And, I'm very fortunate. I had a great executive chef, where I worked, who taught me those things and taught me those aspects. And, it's very frustrating. It's very difficult. It's very hard. But you ultimately want to find out what you want to do. Culinary school for me, it celebrated and opened up a different perspective for diversity inclusion. I think that I would not be the chef I am today without culinary school. I think that, some of the opportunities might have come, but maybe not as quickly because of that. And, ultimately on what you want to do. I think for certain experiences, certain job outlooks, certain, obligations. If you want to be in healthcare, definitely want to go to culinary school, because now you're dealing with dietary, nutritional, you need to learn how to cost, manage things like that, which you can always do, learning, but may not be as quickly. If you want to do private chefing, you see a lot of that nowadays. Chef, somebody might be a home cook and, they're doing some things for dinner and they're turning into private chefs. So I say to that, really just figure out what your niche is. If you want to go to culinary school and have a different experience, for me, it gave me my friends, and you hear that a lot, you get a social platform, it gave you, things like that. But more than that, it taught me how to be an individual outside of culinary arts. More than that, I had to define myself as Ashten Garrett. And the only way I could do that was to get out and do something differently in an environment that was foreign to me, and it allowed me to grow character within myself. So, if you're okay with where you are and you just want to build up the ranks and move up the ranks, absolutely. But if you want a different experience, if you want to, learn different things, if you want to move forward, is culinary school necessary to be a great chef? Absolutely not. But is it, a leg up? Sure. But you just need to weigh, apples or oranges for that.
Yeah. It's personal. Everyone's got to make that decision based on their situation and, where their goals are.
Exactly.
Cool. So you talked about diversity at the school at Johnson & Wales in Miami. You just mentioned it again. Let's talk about that. Do you find there's a lot of diversity in the industry now that you're out there? And have you seen anything like discrimination? Do you see that happening? Has it affected you, whether that's in school or out there in the industry?
I actually just published, a recent article for the National Culinary Review on the same topic, national, culinary diversity. I would like to think that, most chefs that are, in this industry now are celebrating diversity and embracing it, which I think that they are, and coming into it in a well-rounded viewpoint. Unfortunately, that's not always the case. It just depends. Me personally, I've been extremely blessed and fortunate to work in kitchens that celebrate diversity and have diverse individuals, whether it's from, the executive level all the way down to a more, a more elementary role. But nonetheless, I think, as the certain and current events, social, economic, political, that have kind of unfolded in these past years, have given, some consciousness and enlightenment, to certain chefs and certain industries, to kind of celebrate and open up diversity. The first being, just kind of a blatant example outside of culinary arts, venture capitalists are now funding more to, African and more Latino, American, entrepreneurs. So that probably would not have happened if the unfortunate realities didn't occur within these last 2 or 3 years. Might have it happened, of course, maybe down the stream, down later in the stream, but if not, then. But yeah, chef, it's a sticky topic that I always, kind of teeter-totter with. Like I said, I would like to say that they are, but unfortunate reality, sometimes it's not. For instance, women, women of color, even women in this industry, are still being disenfranchised, still kind of being pushed to the side a little bit, whether that's with equal pay or just respect in the industry in general. But there are some trailblazers out there, that are continuing to push. I think Chef Kimberly Brock Brown is a perfect example of that. And she was on this, podcast as well, helping out Dominique Crenn, out in San Francisco of her restaurant, what she's doing with women. So it's just been, a plethora of different initiatives being, happening now, for the push, to embrace diversity, to embrace inclusion, whether it's racial, gender, religious, whatever the case may be. I think, because food knows no gender, chef, it knows no discrimination, knows no age, no bias and things like that. It just knows to exist and to be appreciated. And, just as you and I, we look different. Of course, we have different backgrounds, but, that doesn't discount from us. I might want to learn Ireland cuisine, or Irish cuisine. You might want to learn Western African. We don't throw any bias, with food. So why should we do that with each other? So that's kind of some things that, I tell people with that. Right. And for me personally, like I said, chef, I've been able to be in diverse kitchens all across the world. It's like I said, it's given me a wealth of perspective, and it's just been a tremendous experience. I haven't had an experience with discrimination or racial, and bias. which I'm very blessed, to have that. Unfortunately, I do know colleagues that have gone through some things, and it's deterred them away from certain aspects in this industry, which is unfortunate. But as we continue to progress, I think, two is always better than one. When we come together and build together, we can achieve anything.
Great. Why don't we talk about taboos then? There's taboos in our industry that's been around haunting us for decades, and you're out there in the industry. Do you see them changing, getting better, getting worse? Maybe you could address that. Things like sexual harassment, alcohol and drug abuse, people getting divorced, and relationship issues.
Right.
Even we've had suicides.
Yeah.
So can you talk about those and see, is the industry changing? Are they making that better, or do you see it getting worse? You still see pockets of it?
I think change is always long. It's very, very, very long, and it's through that it's strenuous, it's difficult, right? So that I don't think we'll ever be 100%. Okay, this is where it's at. This is where we need to be in terms of eliminating and eradicating those taboos. Are they still out there? Of course, but are they? I think they're being brought to light on social media. I think there's been a lot of awareness, a lot of great talks, great conversation, such as this. Enlightening the viewers and letting them know, like, hey, like this is kind of what's going on, and this isn't just a local thing. This is a global thing. There's just the outstanding pressures that it has on an industry. I think the the movie Burnt, and it's, of course, it's fictional in a platform, but I think it does an accurate, depiction of portraying, kind of those rigors that the actor Bradley Cooper, kind of went through and goes through. So, in my perspective, I think we are, at a point where it's kind of a turning point. Hey, like this isn't, we want a better work-life balance. And I say we as active, whether it's employees or employees, we want to, there's just so much around us, Chef. I think the advent of social media has helped us out, with that, whether it's traveling and wanting to be with our families, our friends, wanting to be at different events, not being behind the line for 16, 17, 18 hours a day, which is kind of the unfortunate reality for most chefs. But from a longer perspective, right, I think it's been brought to light at the right time. I think, throughout the entire perspective, the, sexual harassment and the alcoholism and, the drugs and, abuse and things like that have just been, people are fed up, Chef, to be honest with you. And that's generational change, where, again, social media, the internet has kind of changed that and brought to light different perspectives. For me, from what I've seen, working at Marriott, they have no tolerance, zero tolerance perspective on any of that, and of course, then not every establishment is perfect in their own right, but, to work for a company in a position that believes so dearly into the well-being and the health of their associates, really helps me out. And for one day, building my restaurant, building my company, building my corporation, I can model that off of that. So I think the taboos still exist, but they're being exposed, and they're being exposed every day.
Yep. Good stuff. Yeah, it needs to. Let's change gears here. I want to talk about Guy's Grocery Games. Okay. That was last year. You're the winner. Tell us about that. The listeners out there, they just see it from the perspective of an audience, watching these things, but maybe give us a little glimpse behind the scenes. What happens? I mean, sure. We see a half-hour show, but I'm sure it takes much longer to do all that filming and get you set up and makeup and all the directions. Could you go through that a little bit?
I could. Yes, I can say just a few things. Unfortunately, I'm not allowed to say the whole spiel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's no problem.
Can't reveal the recipe. Huh?
Yeah, it's okay. I can say what I can say. It was a tremendous experience. If there's any young chef out there, any chef in general that kind of just wants to try something new, try something different, apply whatever it is. Guys, Grocery Games, Chopped. Iron Chef America, whatever it is, try and just, put your foot out there and just see what you can do. So actually, Chef, how I got onto the show was a very interesting and kind of funny experience. So I was on a family cruise. I think we were in the Gulf of Mexico, I would say, or in the Caribbean. I received like an Instagram, DM, and anybody who's on Instagram, you have directs, general, and like kind of where it says like basically like spam in a certain way. That's the third category. And I saw a message, come in that in that category, and I clicked on it, and it was a director. She had reached out to me. She's like, "Hey, Ashten, I've been we've noticed your work, and we've followed you for some time. We're wondering if you would like to be a contestant on the show." And to be honest, Chef, I was about to delete that entire message because, like I said,
that's fake.
Yeah, exactly. It's fake. It went to my spam. I'm thinking like, yeah, there's no way. Like, okay, whatever. And I had a change of heart. It was like like my subconscious was just telling me, Ashten, go on LinkedIn. You're on LinkedIn a lot. Just type in her name, see what pops up. And Chef, she extensive background, she was, director for different channels, things like that. So I'm saying to myself, like, wow, this is, legit. So, with my parents and I, we bought the Wi-Fi package on the boat. Mind you, we're in the middle of the ocean, and I had my first ever interview with them on a cruise ship. And we had a conversation, and after several, interviews later on, with different producers and things like that, I was able to get on the show. So yeah, they do a tremendous job. The behind the scenes are just, incredible. Meeting Guy himself, meeting some of the judges, learning how they operate, how the producers operate. It's all like, it's like a huge orchestra. Mm-hmm. Everybody's playing the position, everybody's playing the part, and making the production as great as it is. You have people that are being flown out from third-party companies, to help, run the production and system, things like that. I had no idea. Like you said, Chef, we see things on TV just as they are. We see the final product, but to actually be behind the scenes and learning how, what the hair and makeup is, or what the, how they choose outfits and color patterns, for different contestants, that kind of fit your style, that fit, the perspective or the character of the contestant. It was incredible. It was a fun experience. And Guy himself is an awesome guy. As he is on camera is exactly how he is on off camera. He's a tremendous, humanitarian. What he's been able to do for the culinary industry, raising a little north of $20 million, to help out the culinary industry this year has been, tremendous. So, he really cares, dearly about our industry. He's a phenomenal guy. I'm glad to call him a mentor now, as well as the other judges, the esteemed judges that were on the show. But yeah, Chef, it's just a phenomenal experience.
What do they do with all that food? It's not a real grocery store, so they don't use it all up. What do they do with it?
Right. So actually, this is I read an article before I was even flown out there. So they donate all that food, whether it's to food banks, to different farms, to all of that gets refurbished or repurposed in a different way. And it's actually run, like you said, it's not an actual grocery store, but it's ran as an actual grocery store. They have expiration dates, first in, first out, HACCP, of course, because it's real food and we are cooking for, people. So, that mm-hmm. sanitation, safety and sanitation is absolutely paramount, especially on a production level. So, being able to be on the show and, seeing that and understanding that and reading that, and then actually going to experience that was just something, like, wow, it was mind blowing. So Flavor Town, that's the name of the grocery store, was tremendous. They have, I think I want to say over 30,000 different ingredients, wow. That range over 100 different cuisines. So it was a daunting task, Chef. I won't lie to you. It's like, I will say this, they kind of, before then, before they say camera, action, we're rolling, you kind of get like a small tour of Flavor Town. And mind you, Chef, it's like, wow, it's mind blowing. Like you're in a grocery store. You and I both know you might have your own local grocery store. I have my own local grocery store. It takes years to develop where everything is, so being in Flavor Town, like you're like, oh my gosh, like where's the milk? Oh, they're in aisle 1. Oh, and you're looking like, where's aisle 1? So yeah, that also builds into the entertainment aspect as well.
Yeah, so you got to have a strategy, like almost a mind map of where you're going to go and where you think things are. And
you have to. Exactly.
Great to hear that they do donate it all and that they repurpose it. And that makes sense.
Right.
So let's talk about American Culinary Federation. I know that's been a big part of your life since, way back, and you're still very much involved in that. So let's say there's someone listening that knows nothing about it. Tell them, sell it. What's the value of ACF and what can they get out of it? What have you gotten out of it? And, where do you see yourself going within the organization, the federation?
Yeah, so American Culinary Federation, I'll just give you a little bit of background about my affiliation. I started when I was in high school, junior year to my senior year in high school. My first ever chapter meeting was in Akron, Ohio. I actually met my mentor there. I met one of my mentors, Chef Stephen Beatty. Shout out to Chef Steve listening on the call. It was just a tremendous experience, being around industry professionals that were doing, it in real time and what they offered young students, whether it was competitions, ACF apprenticeship, certification, just them taking you under their wing and learning so much. I think you can attest to this too, Chef. Mentorship is huge, absolutely huge in our industry. Learning from somebody that has done it for years and years and years and doing it at a high level is inspiring. And one of the reasons why, young chefs go on stages, is to learn how an operation is running that, or how, their mentor, their favorite chef is running that. For instance, I did a stage at Emerald's Delmonico by Emerald Lagasse. I grew up watching Emerald's, and for me to actually cook at one of his restaurants was life-changing. So anyway, with the ACF, it stands for American Culinary Federation, as you said, Chef. It's just, an organization or federation, comprised of chefs from all over the world who just are committed to the betterment of, sustainability for chefs with accreditation, ACF accreditation. I think we have over 20 different accreditations for, different obligations, where all the way from the certified master chef to something more rudimentary, certified culinarian. And certification really matters. Certification really, really matters. It can set you apart, whether it's with pay, whether it's, a competitive salary, like I said, just, you learning the ins and outs and how to do this. I think at Johnson Wells, it's a requirement that all of their faculty in terms of chef are accredited in some way. So, if you're looking to be, a professor or teacher, or even, just an executive chef, later on in life, it's definitely definitely an organization that you want to get into. More so than that, the networking has been extraordinary. There's a individual on the ACF board and ACF staff by the name of Jackie Pressinger. She's my actual liaison, and she's been instrumental in my growth as a young chef. Like I said, outside of my parents, without Jackie's support and guidance, I wouldn't be the young chef that I am, today. So shout out to you, Jackie. Thank you so much for all that you do. But yeah, it's just Chef. There's a wealth of knowledge, and it's growing every day. And I know Chef Kimberly Brock Brown, she was on here talking about it as well. It's growing, like I say, it's growing every day. It's becoming more diverse every day, and for a young chef, if you're looking to be part of something, a growing network, you may not, have questions, or have uncertain, like I said, comments or anything like that, that you want to just kind of figure out, me being a part of the, the network, the ACF, I can just go online to the ACF Chef platform and just ask a question. And, within an hour, 20 different chefs from all over the country can give me some advice. So things like that, it takes you a long way with that.
One of the things that I like about it, I'm a member, is that it's not only a national organization, which gives it, power in the industry and advocate for things, but it's at the local level. So you have those local chapters, which has, what's going on in your neighborhood, in your town, in your city. And that's the big thing, because, what's happening in California will be different than what's in Maine or what's in Florida. So not only is it national, but then you look at those local meetings, and I find a lot of value in networking.
Exactly.
Do you belong to a local chapter? Maybe you could tell, what do you do at your local meetings?
Right. So yeah, I'm at the Cleveland chapter, the ACF Cleveland chapter, ran by Chef John Selleck. He's our president, and also my coach for the ACF Student Chef of the Year competition. Another great competition for any of the student chefs, kind of when they get into competing. So at our local level, we do different things. So every Tuesday, Chef, right now we go out to different chefs in our area. We go to a food bank, and we cook for the less fortunate. So we kind of just. It's like a chopped competition, to be honest with you, Chef. Kind of just go into the pantry, find out.
You never know.
Exactly. You have no idea what every week it changes. So, we kind of just go in there, put our minds together, create a game plan. We have 3 hours to cook for potentially up to 150 to 300, citizens or, people that receive our food. And it's a tremendous experience. Like I said, it's very humbling, allows us, to pick brains and kind of just come up with things together, so that's one aspect. We do local meetings where we might go to breweries. Breweries are really big in Ohio, be able to, learn how brewery, the aspect of brewing. Go to different restaurants, tap into different restaurants. We'll have chefs that, that do demonstrations. Unfortunately now, because of COVID and the restrictions, majority of that is virtual in terms of demoing and having, different chefs on the platform. But I'm certain once everything, clears up, we'll be back in full swing.
And they can find out about local chapters and the national chapter through the website, right? Which is,
right.
What is that website?
I think it's www.acfchefs.org, or if you just Google ACF Chefs, you'll be able to find it.
And then you can look at local chapters. So if someone's listening in Kansas or Dakotas or somewhere, they can find who their local chapter is, the list of presidents, and they can reach out and contact them and check it out. You don't have to be a member to go to a meeting just to, find out and explore and get some information.
And also, Chef, there's, the ACF just enrolled a mentoring platform where I think you can sign on to be with the ACF for 60 days, I want to say, kind of just like a trial period, 30 or 60 days, forgive me for not knowing. And you can just see what the ACF's all about, and also you can sign up for that mentoring platform. And if there's a chef that you say, for instance, you're a student that is really into Asian cuisine and you kind of just want to learn more about it, you can just go on this platform, type in all your information, what your interests are, and you can find a chef that's also doing Asian cuisine at a very high level, and become mentee mentor. So that's a great initiative, I think, as well, that the ACF is doing.
Yeah, there's a lot of free resources on there. I've seen some webinars, and I think you just had one on food trucks. So if someone's interested in operating food trucks, or
that was a couple of days ago, yes sir.
Or marijuana or dispensary or something, and cooking with that, and catering. So there's a lot of information on this. If you're interested and you're listening to this and you want to find out more information about the organization, go to their website, acfchefs.org.
Yes.
Tell me about your book. You wrote a book. What is it? Why did you write it? What was the inspiration for it? What's the title? Where can people find it?
Sure. A few of my favorites. We launched in August of this year. August of 2020. And it's just like exactly how it sounds. A few of my favorites, a collection of 10 recipes that I've created, throughout my that are based upon, my childhood, my experiences traveling abroad, different things that and also where I foresee the culinary future. It was, my father actually came up with the idea just as a marketing tool. After I won Guys Grocery Games, we're looking to, kind of invent my brand, if you will. And we thought no better idea than to create a recipe book. So I got to work, found, kind of just experimenting with, different ingredients, here in the local area, and just came up with 10 different recipes ranging from salads to appetizers to entrees, different things that I, was comfortable making. Particularly, Mediterranean cuisine and Italian cuisine are some of my favorites, due for the health, benefit as well. So that's kind of an inspiration, with that. But you can find it at www.chefashten.com. That's my website, and go on my store. We're running a discount, 15% off right now, if you'd like to purchase that. So it's just like I said, just a collection of recipes inspired by me, for the betterment of everybody else.
Awesome. So that's how people can find you if someone wanted to follow you. What is your social media platforms? You just mentioned that one. If you could say it again.
Right. Yeah.
I'll put those in the show notes as well.
Okay. So my website is www.chefashten.com. I also have a YouTube blog called Beyond the Plate. It's kind of just an informative and educational blog for novice cooks and young chefs to get started. We're just doing things like vinaigrettes and how to cut different fruits and vegetables, things like that, and stuff that I learned in culinary school, right? So that's also on my website if you'd like to check that out. My social media, my Instagram is am.garrett. This am.garrett, that's my Instagram. LinkedIn, Ashten M. Garrett. Facebook, also Ashten M. Garrett. So you can give me a follow. I'll follow you guys back. I really appreciate it. Chefs, that's how they can find me.
Awesome. Great. So what's next for you? Where do you see yourself going? What's your plans? A year from now, 5 years from now, long term? You did mention you wanted to open up a restaurant, but what is your path?
So right now, Chef, it's, like I said, with COVID kind of threw a monkey wrench, as it did, for our entire industry, with that. But, we're resilient. I think we're gonna come back harder than ever before, and it's gonna be, a great turning point for our industry. But as of right now, it's just, continue to build my brand, continue to build, the wealth of knowledge that I'm doing. Just being with different opportunities, learning. I would like to get into the Michelin, level, and cook there, whether it's abroad or something, more internal, and just learn from different chefs, wherever that might be. I'm not too certain. I would love to, go back to Italy and probably cook over there some more. But as it stands, I'll be competing in the ACF Student Chef of the Year here in August. That will be held in Orlando, Florida. I'm proud to announce that I'm also I was appointed to be the ACF National Young Chefs Club president. So, that's been a tremendous opportunity for me thus far, and we're just continuing to build. So, but 5 years from now, Chef, I just, I think I want to be molding my career path, continuing to learn, continuing to grow. I can't tell you exactly where that looks like now. Like I said, hopefully it's at a higher level, whether it's Michelin or, more of a prestigious fine dining hotel, with St. Regis or Ritz-Carlton. But, wherever the case may be, I just want to give it my all and be surrounded by, great, interactive, influential people that, that are dedicated to the craft of cooking and want to be, an inspiration for others, help others. But I think long term, some of the goals I have long term is be an advocate for world hunger. I think that there's no place, on this planet for world hungry. I don't think, any mouths should be not fed. I also want to be, food sustainability, as Chef, our food sustainability is paramount right now, whether it's with agriculture or with, oceans, things like that. So sustainable resources for culinarians, and also, Chef, see what that Michelin level looks like, try something out.
Awesome. So you say you're the president of the Young Chefs Association or club. When do you become an old chef?
Yeah.
Is there an age cutoff there?
Yeah, so it's 18 to 25 is the Young Chefs Club, kind of age limit.
Young chefs, and then you're the old chef.
Right. Yeah. So after 25, on my 25th or my 26th birthday, I'll be considered an older chef. But they have it broken down, where you're a student. I think I want to say it's student apprentice, and maybe more like a leader or worker, kind of things like that. That's kind of how they have it broken down. I'm not too sure, but I know it's definitely student, and then from there it's another level.
Then you can become a senior chef or veteran.
Right. Yep. Senior or director or different things like that.
Awesome. So as we get close to the end here, I'd like to ask, is there any last minute advice or guidance that you could leave with the listeners? Maybe there's someone out there that's thinking about going to culinary school, or wants to follow the path. They're on the fence on it, or they're maybe even thinking about just getting in this industry. What's some advice that you would give them or guidance?
First things first, get yourself into the industry at any capacity you possibly can. I understand that jobs are scarce right now, and our industry is extremely volatile, but still, try at any capacity you possibly can, get yourself into this industry. Learning is the best way, for any, to gain any experience, I think. The old school saying, some things are better explained and some things are better experienced. In this case, you want to experience it. You want to go out into the industry, see exactly what it's like. So that's my first piece. Second piece, find great mentorship. And you'll often find great mentorship while you go through this process of learning and experimenting and finding different things like that. And just network your butt off, find different chefs. I met Chef Roach, in 2016, 2017, and to have this call, 4 years later is because of our networking, so somebody knows somebody who knows somebody else, and our industry has changed, like I said, every day. And you can use that as a platform to help boost you up and your ability. So as it turns into culinary school, you definitely want to weigh, apples to apples, think about, where you want to go, why you want to go there, what specific program, find out about the faculty, learn some things about there. When I decided to go to Johnson & Wales, I did research on possibly, every chef down there, and I wanted to understand the history of Johnson & Wales, starting up in Providence and making its way down to, Miami, Florida, and even the Denver campus as well. So research, learn more about it, reach out to the recruiters, ask them for different information, and get started on your scholarships early on, guys. There's also grants programs. You can do loan forgiveness. There's so many different ways. If you want to be there, you'll find a way to be there. So don't stop. Don't ever give up. Keep pushing forward. And then my last piece, Chef, that I would like to, provide is stay patient and always stay prepared. One of my mentors said, he said, Ashten, it's better to be prepared for an opportunity and not have one than to have an opportunity and not be prepared for it at all. So for the young chefs out there right now, continue to practice knife cuts, work on your skills, measurements, all these things, although they are mundane and probably, forgive me for using this word stupid, but they're going to help you, because practice creates, better practice, which creates progression, and progression creates efficiency. And while you're in this industry, efficiency is the key to the game. You always want to be as efficient as possible. So I hope that helps. If you guys want to reach out to me, like I said, Chef has my links. I'll be more than willing to talk to you and help you out some more. Chef, thank you so much for having me on this podcast. It was a tremendous pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, great. I think that hospitality industry in a whole, it will help anybody. I mean, that's why we're in this business.
Right.
So as you just offered yourself, I think, most people will do the same. So, if you see someone, a chef in your local area, or teacher, instructor, don't be afraid, reach out. And worst I'll say is no, but I bet 99.9 they're going to answer your question and will be able to help you and give you free advice.
Right. And that's all it takes, just that free advice, and that's something that you should cherish for the rest of your life. That's some, them giving themselves to you, that wealth of knowledge, that wealth of experience. You can learn so many things in a book, but like I said, once you're out there doing it and you're learning it from somebody, who has done it for years and years and years, it's just a tremendous experience.
Right. And these chefs have so much knowledge that they don't need it anymore. They want to give it away.
Right. Exactly.
They're done with it.
Right. Let me pass it on.
Excellent. Well, that's just about all the time we have for this episode. I want to first thank you, Ashten, for coming on the show and sharing your culinary school story with all of us. Really appreciate you sharing that, your time, your honesty, your insight. Thank you very much.
Chef, it was a pleasure. Thank you for having me. For anybody view more of Chef Roach. Please. He is doing an incredible service for our industry, and we really appreciate him. Thank you, Chef.
Oh, thank you. I enjoyed our chat. Bye-bye now.
Take care, Chef. Thank you.
And a big thanks and appreciation also goes out to all of you, the listeners. We hope you enjoy the show and this episode. You all are a big part of this show, so please let us know what you think. Your comments are always welcome, and they help us in making the best show possible. You can email them to culinaryschoolstories@gmail.com. That's culinaryschoolstories@gmail.com. Or even leave us a voicemail at area code 207-835-1275. That's area code 207-835-1275. And if you like the show, we have a big ask of all of you, and that is to share the podcast with everyone you know and to give us a positive rating and review on Apple Podcasts. Okay, until our next Culinary School story, take care and be well. Bye-bye. Culinary School Stories is a proud member of the Food Media Network.